What's up, scholars? So in our last video, we looked at the concept of government. And in this video, which is part 2, we're going to be looking at citizenship and sort of what values American citizens hold dear. What do you call a computer that sings? Adele. Harold Lasswell once said that politics is a struggle over who gets what, when, and how. And so we talked about the concept of politics and how it ties in with power in our very first video. In this video, however, we're going to add on to our definition of politics, or really further reinforce that power is an essential concept towards understanding politics. Part of the goal of politics is to have a say or share in the composition of leadership. Because if you have a say in the composition of leadership, you're going to have a say in how the government is organized and what policies are going to be enacted. And so here, politics is an extremely important concept for you guys to understand. And so in the broadest possible sense, politics refers to the conflicts over character, membership, and policies of any organization to which people belong. And the reason why in our first 3 videos we're talking about politics in 2 of them, it's because that you can't go living your life without being affected by politics and government in some way, shape, or form. And so before we move on to what a citizen is actually about and entails, let's talk about political efficacy, mainly because I couldn't really figure out a way to tie it in or fit it in anywhere else. And so political efficacy is this idea or a belief that you as a citizen can affect change in the government. And so currently, right, or recent data is 2014, right? In 2014, 22% of Americans believed that the government cared about them and that they can actually impact change, which is a far cry from the 1960s. In the 1960s, 75% of American citizens believed that the government cared about them and that they can impact change. And so the belief that you can make a difference, the belief that you can affect change in government is the first step needed to actually influence the government. Of course, not every single effort of an ordinary citizen to influence the government is going to succeed, right? It's just impossible for every single movement to have an effect. But without any effort, governmental decisions and policies are going to be made by a smaller and smaller group of people. In other words, if citizens do not try and change the government, it's just going to be the political elites or just the elites in general that are going to sort of rule the country. And so this is why movements like the Black Lives Matter and just the variety and the multitude of different movements that have been going on over the past year are so important. Right? First off, right, it's important because they're trying to end systemic racism and police brutality, right? And these are all worthwhile and important changes that are needed in this country. But the other reason why these movements are so important is because that these people protesting adamantly believe that what they are doing can make a difference and influence change in our country and our government. And so their efforts undermine the key feature of American democracy, a government of the people. That actually segued well into our next topic. Good for me. So our next topic, right? If a key feature of American democracy is a government of the people, our next topic talks about, well, what makes up government? Well, it's the citizens, right? And so the term citizen or citizenship has changed a lot, has meant different things throughout history. For example, in ancient Greece, the term citizenship just referred to the fact that you lived within the community. And today, the term citizen or citizenship has expanded. And so now, in addition to living in the community, it now includes being an informed and active member in a political community. In other words, being a citizen today doesn't mean that you're passively just living out your life. Being a citizen today means that you are actively involved in politics in some way, shape, or form. Whether that means that you tweet your representative or senator, you go to rallies, you go to protests. These are all different ways for a citizen to be actively involved. But this all requires some level of political knowledge, right? You don't want to end up like this.
Kevin, can you name a country on this map?
What?
Just any country.
Oh my, I don't know.
How about this?
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
How about this? How about this?
Texas. No, India. I don't know.
Can you point to a country on this map?
USSR.
Russia now.
Yes.
Can you point to it? No, that's China.
Alrighty, my fault.
Right. So the moral of the story is, if someone shows up with the camera and asks you to pinpoint countries on a map, you just sort of run away if you don't know the answer. So back on track. So citizens need political knowledge to figure out how to best act in their own interests. Oftentimes in the United States, Americans complain about how the government doesn't respond to their needs, but sometimes, right, sometimes that supposed lack of failure of the government is a direct result from the citizens' lack of knowledge. And so that's part of the reason you guys are required to take this course before you graduate, right? Part of the goal of a government course is to help you guys become informed and active members of society, right? To be an informed and active citizen. That doesn't mean, like, I'm not going to tell you what political beliefs to believe in because that's up to you. But you should have all the information at your disposal to make good decisions when you go out to vote or when you engage in the active duties of being a citizen. And so knowledge of the government is really the first prerequisite for achieving an increased sense of political efficacy. So you want to make a change? Well, you first need to know how the system works to actually impact and change our government. And so the last half of our video today is going to go over our 3 core tenets that we believe in as American citizens. And so our political system in the United States is built on 3 big ideas: liberty, equality, and democracy. The first, liberty. And so liberty, if we're going to have a very simple definition, liberty just means freedom. And so to Americans, liberty just means both personal and economic freedom. And liberty is an idea that's very closely linked with the idea of limited government, right? That Americans, we believe that we cannot have freedom, we can't have liberty if the government is all powerful. And that started from our founding fathers all the way up through today in 2020. And so here, our Constitution just has a lot of provisions within it that protects our liberties, our rights, our freedoms as citizens, right? Look at the Bill of Rights, right? These are all, the first 10 amendments protect our rights as citizens. It preserves our individual rights. And over the course of history, right, the scope of our personal liberties have expanded, right? Different groups throughout history have gained more rights, although we may not be where we want to be today. However, right, there's still a lot of conflicts over how much personal liberty should be expanded and when personal liberties violate community norms. In other words, there's still this massive debate over which liberties should be afforded to citizens and which liberties should be restricted by the government. One of the biggest questions, or one of the biggest examples of this, is the topic of abortion, right? In addition to personal liberty, in addition to personal freedoms, Americans also include economic freedom in their understanding of liberty. And so although we have a capitalistic system where we allow like free market ideas to take reign, many Americans still support some restrictions on economic freedoms to support the public. And so that's why we have a mixed economic system today, right? Yes, we have elements of a free market system, but our government steps in and takes control when necessary. And so, like liberty, equality is another core tenet that American citizens hold dear. And as central as equality is to American creed, American belief, it's less defined than liberty, right? We can say liberty just means freedom. There is no real simple definition like that for equality, mainly because people define equality in many different ways. And so it's extremely difficult for American citizens to reach an agreement or a consensus on what actually constitutes the equality of opportunity and also this idea of political equality. And so for the equality of opportunity, right, there's a lot of different ways we can go about it, right? But if we were in class, we would go over 2 questions. The first one being, should past inequalities be remedied in order to ensure equal opportunity in the present? And should inequalities in the legal, political, and economic realms or spheres be given the same weight? In other words, right, should the government provide reparations for slavery? And then how should inequalities be addressed in the different spheres of American life? And that's something we'll go over and talk about in our Google Meet. And so in contrast to liberty, right, remember, liberty requires a limited government. Equality, on the other hand, implies an obligation of the government to the people. In other words, the government needs to be big and expansive to be able to provide equality for all of its citizens. And so while equality sounds like this awesome term, it's still a concept, it's still a place where our government falls short. Like, I don't think that we can say that there is perfect equality for all different races, all different socioeconomic status, all citizens within our United States today. And so while the equality of opportunity may not have broad political support, political equality, on the other hand, is a concept that many Americans sort of believe in. But the conflict over political equality remains over the fact whether or not the political system makes it harder for some people to participate and easier for others to participate. And so here, Americans believe that everyone should have a voice, but the conflict is over whether, well, if everyone has a voice, why is it easier for others to have it, and why is it harder for others? Another conflict is surrounding the role of money, right? If we believe in political equality, right, why has money played such a big role in politics over the past couple years, over the past couple decades, right? Because money has played a larger voice, right? That gives more credence to the elite, to these conglomerates that are able to spend a lot of money through the super PACs and PACs in different elections. And the last core tenet is democracy, right? And so the essence of democracy is the participation of people in choosing their laws and the citizens' ability to influence what their leaders do. And so in the United States, democracy, A, rests in the hands of the people, of its citizens, and B, rests on the principle of majority rule with minority rights. And so when I talk about minority or minority rights, I'm not talking about like ethnic minorities. I'm talking about the group of people that aren't in the majority. All right? And so this can mean, and the example we're going to use is in the House of Representatives, right? If 51% of our representatives vote on a bill to make it a law, then that 51% is in the majority. The 49% then is in the minority. And so here, that's how we make laws in this country, right? The majority makes the laws and the minority group has to live with it. And so the problem with this is that our founders feared that the popular majority could turn the government into a tyranny of the majority, that there wasn't going to be any safeguards in place to prevent the majority from just ignoring what the minority groups wanted and then just doing what the majority wanted. And so here, that's why in our Constitution, we have a lot of safeguards in place that helps protect the rights of the minority group. And so concerns for that individual rights, concerns for those minority rights has always been an important part of American democracy. The Bill of Rights and our Supreme Court has provided an all-important check on the power of the majority. All right, guys, that's all I have for you guys today. I know this was a bit longer, so I thank you guys for sticking with me. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.